Hi, it's Maya here, and I want to show you 3 fun ways to add more movement to your website designs in Showit. 3 different effects that we're going to go over are image hovers. I have 2 different variations I'm going to show you. One where the pose is changing on hover, and then another that's one of my favorites where you have a black and white photo, and when you hover over an option, it changes to color. And then we're going to talk about sticky sidebars on scroll. The last effect we'll go over is color changing text, and I have 2 variations for this one. These are all no coding required, just done in Showit, and actually you can download the finished canvases. I have the link to do that in the description for this video. It's completely free, and so then you'll just have the canvases already set up for you, and you can use them, tweak them however you like. So with the image hover effect, pretty simple here. On the page tab, you can see I have this labeled as the pose change, and there's an image here, and then there's an image for the hover, and they're both in the exact same position. But what I've done is selected an image to be on top, and then if we go to hover on the right sidebar, it's set to go to 0% opacity on hover, so that means it becomes transparent. And then that image that's underneath in the exact same position, if we go select it on the left sidebar first, and then go to image, you can actually see what image is underneath, and it's just an image that has a different pose of that same person. And you don't need to set any hover effect for the image underneath. It's just the image that will show when the mouse hovers. If it helps, you can also hide that image on top temporarily by using the little desktop or mobile icon here, and then you can see the image underneath much larger instead of just viewing it small under there. I've got this set up with the settings for you, so once you come into the canvas, you can just double click, change out the photo on top, select your photo underneath, come here, change out the photo underneath. And with these image hover effects, you're mostly going to just notice them on desktop and not mobile, just because of the way that it's easy to see a mouse hover with desktop, not so much with mobile. If someone did put their finger here on mobile, they would see the hover effect, but just keep in mind they're probably mainly going to see it on desktop. And for the second effect that we're about to go over, it's really hard to see it on mobile for the hover effect to work. So I'm just using it on desktop, and on mobile it's just showing the colored images underneath. And this one here is kind of like a nice surprise. If someone's mouse happens to hover over here, they'll just see that pose change. But this one here especially helps with user experience. As they're choosing an option, it flashes to color and it'll let them know like what they're selecting. And so to do that, pretty similar to the pose change, but what I've done is I have the same exact photo on top and underneath, but one is the black and white version and the other is the color version. And so if I'm working with a photographer, sometimes they've already taken a black and white version and a color version of the same pose. That's what actually gave me the idea to first try this. But if not, or if you're working with stock photos like I am here, what I did is I actually downloaded the colored versions and just went into Photoshop really quick and made them black and white. And so you can't change the photo to color or black and white in Showit. You will need to do that with something else like Photoshop, but really easy to do. The top photo on hover, just like before, should go transparent. And now let's look at the sidebar. So again, this is something that you're going to notice more on desktop than mobile. So on mobile, instead of it being sticky, I just have them see the intro section and then the rest of the details. And with this section here, you can have anything you want on the sidebar, anything you want for the main content. I showed it with this process text because I think it is really good for, when someone needs to scroll through a lot of text, kind of help break it up, give it more interest. But I've also done this where you could have like a quick navigation here, and then you can even have multiple sections instead of one big section here, and the sidebar that scrolls with you helps you navigate the page. So there's tons of ways you can use this. This is just one simple example. So first I have a buffer here so that there's more breathing room between what looks like the beginning of the section and where it actually starts scrolling. And then you have your actual sidebar canvas here. If we go to canvas on the right sidebar, you'll see the height is set to just 1 pixel. And so it's set like to be very thin. And then the text and the photo here are actually overhanging onto the canvas below, okay? And this sidebar section is set to be top on scroll, and that's so that as you're scrolling the section, it stays sticky as the other canvas scrolls down. And then to edit any of this text on the sidebar, you should be able to select it on the page and edit like normal. Because this is technically a different canvas, you might have to click twice to actually get the sidebar canvas to open so that you can edit. But yeah, you can change anything around here. Just keep it to the side so that there's plenty of breathing space to see your main content here. I just eyeball that as far as how much spacing I want in between. I don't have any hard rules for that. And then once you have your intro sidebar area set up, you can edit your main content as well. So again, whether this is a list, or I've seen it done with product information or resource links, whatever you're doing over here, just make sure that is designed. And for this canvas, it is not sticky at all, and the stacking order is 0. And then I left you a note here, and this is to let you know, like for the rest of the page, for this effect to work, you want to make sure that any canvas that appears below your 2 seamless scroll sections is set to a stacking order of 2 or more. And so you'll notice with this section, as you keep scrolling, the remainder of the sections on the page actually cover the sidebar so that it doesn't keep popping up as you're looking at the rest of the page. And so that's what I mean there. And so you'll see this section set to stacking order 2, and so are all of the other sections on the page after that sidebar and main content, so that the sidebar is covered up. And then the last thing we need to go over is the color changing text. And so for this first one, where we have 2 words here and it's alternating which text box has the color changed, you'll notice, as you can see in my mouse, I actually have the words in 2 separate text boxes. And what I've done here is I have a canvas view, and you'll see the first text box and the second text box. And for the first text box, under text style, I just changed the color. So this one is color number 1 on 25%. The second text box is color number 1 on 100%. So it can be like slight variations of the same color like that. It can be 2 separate colors, whatever you want. But basically, you just want 2 text boxes, and to change the color of only one of them, select the canvas. And if you go to View Transitions, you'll see it's set to Auto Advance 1 second, and go to the next view. And that will help with the flashing effect that it's changing from view to view and looping so quickly. And so then when you go to view 2, this one is set to color number 1 at 100%. This one is set to color number 1 at 25%. So they're alternating which color is where, basically. And I just positioned the text boxes together as best as I could so that it looks like one seamless text box when you're reading it. Like there's no weird disjointment between the words, but really it's 2 separate text boxes. And if you're updating this, when you go to size and position, you can see where on the page each box is positioned to help you make sure that they're aligned well. And then of course, there's alignment tools over here when you highlight them to help. And then for the multicolor effect, pretty similar, but I have 3 views here this time, and there is this first text box, and then the second text box, and the second text box is the only one that is inside the views, and it's the one that changes color. So go on to text style, change the color inside each view. And one thing I want to mention with that is, so like you have a whole sentence here, but only some of the words are changing color, right? So I just had to play around with the alignment and the positioning. It worked really nice that this part of the sentence starts to head over onto the next line, and then there's room for the rest of it to complete the line. So it flowed really well together. And then on desktop, it easily took up 2 lines, and then I could just put the last line underneath in a separate text box. But again, you might have to play with the positioning some depending on what text you have, just to make sure that it flows as text that should go together, even though it's actually separate text boxes. And then as far as the view transitions pretty similar to before. It's auto advancing between views. This time I set it to 1.5 just to give you some more time to read it before the color changes because there's more text. So just keep that in mind too. But yeah, very similar way of setting that up and editing it. And so those are the 3 different Showit development tricks I wanted to show you. And I have one bonus tip for you. So inside this file, you'll also notice the buttons. These are the buttons that I use on my own website actually, and I get a lot of compliments on it. So I thought it'd be fun to include them in this file and show you how I made it. We've just got a rounded rectangle box here, and under effects in Showit, the corners are set so that just the top 2 corners are rounded, and then I added an extra line element underneath, and the line thickness is 4, but the box thickness is 1.5 on the borders, and so it just accents the box a little extra with that bolder line on the bottom. And then the box is set to transparent, so it'll show whatever image or background color is underneath, and the text box is taking up most of the space around the box so that wherever someone clicks with their mouse, they'll select the link. And then the line height set to 2.8 just so it sits nicely within the button. You only have to set a button link for the text box. You don't have to link anything else here if you don't want to. So that's everything I want to share. Be sure to grab those canvases at the link below to save you some time. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you found it helpful, I'd love it if you shared it with a Showit designer friend who would like it too.